Good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining us for the second 13th Man podcast. My name is Ron Baker. I'm joined by Mr. Alton Bell. We're both mentors for the 13th Man organization. In case any of you out there that aren't familiar with the 13th Man, it's a leadership and mentoring organization for young men 12 to 17 years old. We have a chapter in the DMV area as well as one in Charlotte, North Carolina. The 13th Man was founded by Mr. Devon Kelly. He had a vision, and we're part of, producing that vision and bringing it to life. Uh, and if you want to find out more about the 13th Man and how to become a mentor, or a young person, a young man that wants to join the 13th Man, go to the13thman.org. Now, our topic for this evening is all things mentoring. Please place any questions you may have or comments in the chat area, and we'll try to respond to as many as we can. Now, to get started, we have some questions that Mr. Bell and I will answer about mentoring and our experience with the 13th Man. And Alton, I'll let you go first. What does mentorship mean to you, and what makes it important?
Hey, Ron, it's good to see you, and welcome everybody. With respect to that question, mentoring to me is really having a resource or resources that can help you along your way in your development and your personal and professional life. The bottom line is no one can really do things alone, and we all need mentors or someone to look up to give us guidance, to give us the benefit of their experience along the way. And to me, that's what mentorship means, and that's what we try to deliver. That's my perspective of mentoring and what I try to deliver as far as a mentor, so that you basically have a resource or a set of resources to go to, whenever it's necessary, even when it's not necessary, just to have another voice or an outlet available for you.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree, and especially one of the points you just made about having a professional mentor, because we mentor young men, and even us at our advanced ages.
Yes, we're not young.
Have mentors. We have mentors that we look to, and other people that also look to us as mentors in our respective fields. What mentorship means to me is pretty much what Alton said. And I think it's also a way to give back because, as you said, no one's done it alone. And so if you've had assistance and people have helped you along the way, whether you're young, older, however, it's good to be able to give that back to someone else. Our next question is, what do you feel is the most important aspect of mentoring?
For me, the most important aspect of mentoring, it really is just being available, being able to provide some aspects of your life's experience and give that guidance and have an ear. Sometimes people just need an outside person to listen to, not just to give advice. But I think it's very important to be available as a mentor, and just be able to share your life experience with someone and help give them some guidance.
I agree. One of the things that I feel is really important, the aspect of mentoring, is building those relationships.
Yeah.
And as you said, sometimes you need to hear a different voice. I'll give you an example, just a recent example. I won't mention his name, but one of my mentees was having some trouble in school, and mom was having a hard time getting through to him. And we got on the phone, and it just all came out, explaining what happened, how it happened. And I gave him my experience. And one of the things is I used to teach, and we were talking about things that happened in school. And I was explaining to him from the teacher's perspective how that person felt by what he did. And he didn't think of it that way. He was just thinking of what his friends had said. He never thought of what the adults, the principal, the teacher, and what their perspective was. And once we talked, it was like, oh, a light bulb went off. So building those relationships when you're mentoring is really important.
Well, that's a great point, because essentially what we have is access to our friends and family. And sometimes those are the voices that we are familiar with, and we don't get a chance to hear a third perspective on things,
Right.
and we just basically see things a certain way. We always have our own perspective, and it's an outside party, somebody that's not part of your inner circle or part of your family, that can give you a perspective that you haven't thought of, because they're looking at things different than what you see from your inner circle and from your family. So that's why I think it's important to have those kinds of resources, just so you can see things differently at times.
That's true. And I think, and this is a little humorous, that one thing I've had parents say is, I said the exact same thing to him,
Right,
and he
right.
acted as if I was talking to a wall. And, the mentor comes along, that other voice, and says the same thing. And the kids go, okay, yeah, you're right. And, I know it drives some parents crazy, but it's sometimes you need to hear that different voice that may be saying the same thing.
Yep.
And taking us to the next question, and I know we've all, as mentors, have experienced this with mentoring teens. How do you overcome those unforeseen difficulties in communication? Because I know you call them on the phone, they won't pick up. You could text them 30 seconds later and they'll text you right back.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's just today's generation, and how we are. We all respond differently to different ways of communication, and some
Mhm.
people don't respond well at all. It may take a couple days for somebody to call you back.
Right.
For me, in my experience as a mentor on the 13th Man, a lot of the kids that I've had assigned really don't have their own phones. So it makes it even more difficult, or don't have access to the phone. So you really have to get access to them through emails or through their parents. And it's just an extra layer of challenge. But the end of the day, it's just a matter of trying to be persistent and continuing to try to get through whatever method is available. But at the same time, understanding everybody's got a lot going on in their lives,
Right.
especially these days. So you just gotta be patient and try to reach out and wait to hear back from folks.
Yeah. And you hit on that word persistent. You have to be persistent when communicating with a lot of these young people. And one of the things I've told my mentees in the group out, we have our groups of mentors and mentees, is that you share responsibility to reach out too.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate that at least three or four of mine constantly reach out. I have one mentee who just started college at Bowie, and that's where I graduated from.
Oh,
And
nice.
he's
I
been
didn't know
real
that.
good
My
about,
son graduated Bowie State. So
yeah, BSU. Uh, he's been really good about reaching out to the point of calling me, asking me. I thought it was comical that, how do you remember all these songs and chants and all this stuff? I said,
mm,
that comes as you're there. He's a freshman, of course, and just getting acclimated to college life. So, some of those things, I told him, it'll come. I can't tell you I remember any of the songs or most of
all
the
right.
chants, but the fact that he reaches out, let me know how he's doing. He's gotten all A's. So he's taken that responsibility and said, I'm not just going to wait for Mr. Baker to call me. I'm going to call him or text him and let him know how I'm doing.
That's
And
an
that's
important
part of
thing.
mentoring too, is getting them to do things that they don't normally do.
Yeah, but you make an important point, yeah, because it is generally a one-way street. It is generally, you reaching out and them receiving. But you do want to have that two-way communication, and you can't force it. It just has to happen.
Yeah.
Because part of what we do, or what I try to do, is just again be there, be an ear, give some advice, give my perspective, and over time you try to build that trust, so that once that trust is built, then that relationship can grow, and you get to the point where that two-way communication can occur. But it
Right.
is, generally speaking, for the most part, a lot of one-way communication.
Right.
And the only way you can really, see the benefit of a mentor is to have that two-way communication,
Mhm.
so that you can, from the other side, forge that relationship as well.
Yeah, it has to be organic, has to happen
Yes.
kind of naturally. It
Yes.
can't be forced. And something else I learned when I was in the classroom is that kids are much more perceptive than you think they are.
Mm,
They know when you're being genuine and they know when you're not being genuine.
right.
So that always has to be part of the equation is that
At the
you,
forefront. Yeah.
yep, you say what you mean. If you say you're going to do something, you do it and hold them to the same,
Yep.
hold them accountable to the same thing. Let's get to the next question. What are some of the positive outcomes that you've seen or had as a mentor?
Yes, one of the most significant memories that I've seen is we had a kid that being a mentor isn't necessarily being a replacement dad, right? I mean, there are a lot of kids in our community who don't have a father in their life or active in their lives, but a lot that do, right? And then on the occasions where you do have young men that are growing up in single parent households, there is that void, and when we've had that opportunity to step in and create that bond, to see that relationship flourish, and to have the mentee basically really get see an emotional response and saying, hey, I really appreciate you as a mentor, because you're taking the place of a figure that hasn't been in my life,
Right,
and it makes them feel loved and wanted and special, and it does the same thing to you as a mentor, to have that, to see that reaction, to be a part of that, and know that you kind of have made a difference, just by being present and showing that you care. So that for me is the most memorable part of this experience thus far, and being able to get to know some of these kids, understand what they're going through to at least a certain degree, and just and be that male figure for them in the situations where that male figure doesn't exist. And again, that's the case with some of the kids. It's not the case with all the kids. I mean, the thing I like about the 13th Man is it's not, you don't have to qualify to be a mentee. You just have to be a person that wants to thrive and do better, because it is not just a mentoring aspect of it, it's a leadership program. So being able to provide some information and guidance that helps the kids develop as leaders is also a big part of what we do, and what we thrive to do here, with the 13th Man.
yeah, definitely agree with all of that. And the 13th Man provides time with these young men. We have our classic that lasts 4 days. All the other activities is spending time with them. And most young people, that's what they ask for. They like the material things, but time is more important.
That's
Time
true.
shows that you care. One of the positive outcomes of many I've had since I've been with the organization is a young man went off to college, and we were talking about the time with COVID, you losing years, but it
Yeah.
was 2019, and he went to school down in North Carolina, and he sent me a card, and his card thanked me, and he said, all those conversations we had and all the things you were talking about, I was actually listening. It didn't seem like I was listening sometimes, but I was actually listening, and I appreciate everything you did for me, everything you said. We're gonna stay in touch, even though I'm kind of aging out. And a lot of the young men come back, and that meant a lot to me because I knew, okay, it's being heard. The things you're saying, it's being heard. You're texting back and forth. They can be on the phone on the other line, not saying anything,
Hmm.
but you know that what you said is relevant to them, and that they heard it. They may not say anything at the time, but
They may
you
not
know
quite
about
get
the
it at the
effect.
time, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then it kind of dawns on them. Yeah. And that's part of being a mentor is sharing your experiences from your life so you can kind of pay it forward,
Right.
help them in situations, especially the ones that are going off to college or entering high school, and telling them things that they will experience. And as you were at the golf classic, the young man, and uh, his name escapes me, but when he
Chris,
talked
or
about one of the things, not Chris, the other young man,
I think it was Kenny.
Kenny, yeah, and Kenny talked about how he realized once he got to the 13th man that it was okay to not know some things. It was okay to be confused at that age about what you wanted to be. And that was one of the other positive outcomes is the effect that the young men have on each other. They
Right.
come in not knowing other people. Some were very, very quiet when they would come to the classic that first day. They wouldn't say anything, but by the third day, they're talking about these are my brothers. They find kids that have things in common with them. They support each other. Uh, to see that growth over just 4 days,
Yeah.
uh, to watch the expression on a parent's face when they see uh, their young man stand up and talk in front of 400 people when they said he wouldn't even talk in front of family,
Hmm.
and he gets behind the mic, and it brought some of the parents to tears,
Right.
to see the effect, and that's one of the really positive outcomes I've experienced.
But you mentioned something about the kid going to college and aging out, and that's true to the extent of aging out of the 13th Man program to being a mentee. But my perspective on mentee and mentor relationships is it's a lifetime. You
Mhm.
may age out of the 13th Man program as an active participant, as a mentee, but the relationships that we create as mentors and mentees, I expect that to last a lifetime. I expect to be there for these mentees as long as necessary, as long as I'm around, and
Right.
hopefully they feel the same way, right? Because it's about networking. It's about having resources, and those resources don't just end, because there will come a time, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, where you'll run into a situation when you say, "Hey, I wonder, if Mr. Bell has any experience with this or can help me with this," and hopefully, that is where we are 15, 20 years from now, and maintaining those relationships.
Yeah, because that's what it's about, is that support, being able to pick up the phone and call someone and say, I'm thinking of going into this area of study. Do you know anybody? I want to be an engineer. Are there some engineers associated with the 13th man that I could talk to? Uh, so that's that constant positive outcomes that we look for, and that goes to our next question: is what advice can you give others who are looking to become a mentor, or who would like to join a mentorship program and be a mentee?
So for those that are looking to become a mentor, it's like you said earlier, it's if you're looking for a way to give back, if you've had um, good times, bad times, hard times, success, you've made it through. Um, and you want to basically be significant, have an impact in your community. Um, I would say, that's, come and help. I mean, as this program has grown, we need a lot more mentors, because when I started 6 years ago, when Devon, came with his vision, uh, I didn't really envision it, being this big or the size that it will get to. I just thought, yeah, this is a great opportunity to give back. What went in my head was, I had, I'd gone through my career, raised two boys, which I basically give my wife most of the credit there, because I was busy, working on my career and being a provider, and striving for that success. And then I look back and realize that these kids that grew up in our household, they did very well, and I was a part of that. And I've also had the experience of hiring young people and watching them grow. And I wanted to say, what's it like to really do that intentionally, just really be intentional, because my experience as a parent was really, again, working hard and showing them and giving them that blueprint, giving them that example. And like you said, you say things to them, and you don't think they're really listening, and find out 20 years later they're reciting things that you said and say, "Oh yeah, I did say that." Um, so if you have that in your heart, if you have that in your spirit to say, "Yeah, I can make a difference in my community," being able to help if it's just one kid or two kids or 10 kids or 20 kids, um, this is a good avenue for that, because again, you can't, nobody does anything alone. And Devon's vision for this program was essentially to give those kids that don't really have access to all of the resources that you would have if you actually made the team as on the 12-person team. That 13th man doesn't get access to all of the resources that the other 12 did, and having this as a facility for them, uh, is a great thing of fulfillment. So if you in a position where you have some time, and it doesn't necessarily take a lot of time, but you have some life experience, you want to share, you want to have an impact on your young man, I would recommend that you reach out to us and find out how you can get involved. And it doesn't really take much. It just really takes a little time and a lot of caring to be a part of it, as far as a mentor is concerned. And for mentees, I think, you know, whether you have a parent, two-parent household, or a single mom or single dad, it's about networking. It's about resources. It's about, as you mentioned earlier, finding other peers, making that bond. And they can be bonds that carry you throughout your life. You never know who's going to help you, who's going to be there when you need it, who's going to be there to launch you in your career. But being open to receiving mentors and peers is important, especially in those teenage years when you're trying to find your way and find yourself.
Yes, yes. And what I found out, I've worked with young people for a long time, even before I joined the 13th Man. And the thing that has always been consistent is I get as much back, even
Hmm.
more than I give. And I've told that to the young men a number of times, that you guys uh, taught me things, teach me things, um, give back to me. As much as I pour into you, you pour back into me.
Hmm.
And I would tell anybody that has the opportunity. And like you said, it doesn't take a whole lot of time, but as I said before, time is important to people, that they get it from others. And I rep my 13th man stuff, the hat, the shirt, just
Right.
so someone will ask, "Oh,
Yeah.
what's that? What's the
Oh,
13th man?" And
right.
then I explain it to them, and I said, and I say the same thing you just said. We need more mentors, and it's not for everybody, but if it's in your heart,
Yep.
you have the time, you want to give back, you want to share your experiences to help someone else, a young person out, then yeah, we definitely would love to have people like that. Uh,
We did something a little different this year with my folks, because again, the numbers are so large, the numbers are growing. When we started out, it was, hey, Mr. Bell, I've got these 3 kids, 4 kids, that I want to assign you to be a mentor to. And you reach out to them, and you get responses from 2 or 1 or whatever, and you kind of go forward from that. And then as the program has grown over the years, it's, hey, Mr. Bell, I got these 20 kids. It's like, well, how am I going to keep up with 20 kids, right? And the concept of, it takes a village to raise a child. We kind of try to implement that this year, especially considering, everything's virtual. With the pandemic,
mhm.
we can't really get together like we used to. We used to get together and go have lunch or breakfast. We've gone to basketball games together, and those things weren't
Right.
available, right? So, and what I did, with that take a village part in creating mentoring teams, and I found that it was beneficial for all involved, was essentially just to recruit some guys that I know that are just good people. Both of my sons, so I'm very proud to have them as part of my team. Because it gives us a different age perspective. Like I'm over
Right.
50. I got guys that are in their 40s. My sons are 30. And, one is in his 30s. The others won't say how old he is. Uh, but they give us this balance of different perspectives. And
Right.
when I reached out to guys, it was like, oh yeah, I would love to be a part of that. And so you just never know. And by working as a team, we basically have these joint Zoom calls once a
Mhm.
week. where we would get on and have certain topics to talk about with the kids, and we give our perspective and listen to how they are handling things. And I found that to work pretty well, but definitely looking forward to the time when we can, get together in person again in
Yeah,
general.
get back together again. Yeah, because I another aspect of that is finding out uh, interests. Um, and one of my mentees that I have right now, I found out he's into animals, birds especially. And we were so glad. I was glad that I have him as a mentee because that was me growing up. Love animals, still
Right,
do. I
right.
worked pet shop as a veterinarian technician. I did that from the time I was around 14 till my mid 30s before I started teaching. So, we probably talked the first time for like an hour
Yeah, just sharing
talking
a
about,
passion, right?
yeah, the birds. And he's telling me about a store down in Virginia I need to go to because they have these certain birds that I told him I like. Uh, and it was pretty cool. And also you find out things, you'll relate to this with Daquan, who's your nephew. He
Yes,
was my
great nephew.
mentee,
Yeah,
and he's such a great bowler. And
yeah.
I watched one of his matches. I learned more about bowling that day than
It's it's a whole
I
different
know.
world out there, that bowling world, man.
Yeah, and I also learned that I thought I bowled decent,
Yeah.
and I told him, what I normally bowl as a score, and it was almost like I got patted on the head. That yeah, that's nice. So it was one of those things that we get
What
a
what
lot
what did
from
he
him.
what did he say to you? That's cute, right?
Yeah, pretty much that was it. He's just kind of snickered and like, yeah, that's
That's
nice.
the new way of that's what something young people do to tell you, yeah, simmer down. Yeah, that's cute.
Cute, yeah, yeah. Because I was like, well, I guess I'm just. I thought I was like maybe average or something. No,
Yeah,
not
not
even
even
close.
close. Yeah.
But that's what you get. You have those moments and you learn so much. You learn about them,
Hmm.
and you learn about other things that maybe you didn't have that interest in. And for those to become a mentee, I have two grandsons and they're both in the 13th man. I have three grandsons actually, uh, and the youngest one he's 10, and he came to our banquet. And now he's always asking me, when can I join those 13 guys? There's 13 man, but he can't wait.
Yeah.
His cousins are in it. He's experienced it a little bit. So it's that camaraderie that they
Yeah.
feel, that they see, the friends that they make. So if
But you know what? It doesn't sound like a lot, and it is. But the
mhm.
other thing that's really interesting about the Summer Classic, and hopefully we'll get back to that again in the summer, it's a lot of fun. They do some
Oh yeah.
fun things. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Baseball game. Maybe they took kids to a Nationals game. I mean, opportunity to experience things that you don't necessarily have an opportunity to experience. I didn't know that these game vans existed. Right? You had these
Oh,
two
me
18-wheelers that just full of games. You just go in.
that I
It's like
can't
a
play.
like a mobile Dave and Buster's or something, right?
Mhm.
And the whole trampoline thing. I mean, there's a lot of activities that really make those 3 days a lot of fun. It's not just learning to be a leader. It's not just learning a lot of things and making those networking resources and connections. It's also some fun activities there too.
Yeah,
So
PT 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30. Getting
yeah,
them up to exercise, and
yeah.
you
If you're
tell
not
them
a
get your
morning person,
sleep.
it could be tough.
Oh yeah, yeah. Tell them to get their sleep because you're gonna get up. But it got them outside running and you know doing exercises
Playing
and
a little hoop.
yeah, having Greg lead it and telling Greg, you're not on the football field anymore. You gotta
Yeah.
dial it back a little bit. But all of those things. And one of the good things is we had kids who weren't necessarily interested in sports, but there were things for them to do.
Right.
The workshops and everything, the guest speakers, the etiquette lessons, which I thought were not only fantastic but very humorous because right after that we start eating and you still watching some kids just, yeah, that didn't take. We're going to have to do that again.
some kids, hey, I still struggle with it. Like, what did she say about the left
Yeah.
inner outer? Yeah,
Yep. Start from the outside and move in. But yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah.
also like you said, it's a lot of camaraderie and fun things to do. You have guy talk, which is I would tell anybody that's aspiring to be a mentor, uh, that in itself is so fulfilling, because we get to talk about anything. And a couple of times we talked about some things that took me back,
Yeah.
things I experienced, and got to talk to one young man and said I went through that too.
Hmm.
And this is how I handled it, and this is how things went. So yeah, anybody that aspires to be a mentor and has their heart in it, I would definitely recommend it. Um, our next question, and this is, I was thinking about this before the podcast. Do you have the experience of having a mentor as a youth? And what would you tell your younger self about seeking a mentor or nourishing the mentor relationship that you had?
Well, for me, I really didn't. I did have a two-person, two-parent household. Grew up fairly comfortable, not rich, middle class,
Mhm.
inner city, living experience. I did have, coaches that were somewhat like mentors, but I didn't really have a mentor. My dad was my mentor. My dad was my guiding
Right.
light. Um, and once I got into work, um, you know, the owner of the company I worked for, he became my mentor, until he passed. He was somebody that I could reach out to, not only on a professional level but on a personal level, when times were tough and things that I needed to hear that outside voice. So I didn't really have one, growing up outside of my dad. Um, but reaching back and going back, I look at that and go, if you have an opportunity, to establish a relationship with, this could be an older person. It doesn't have to be an adult. um, you know Maintain that relationship, and look to those people, for advice and guidance, because when I was growing up, I you know, like a lot of kids, I know it all, right? And I really kind of agreed. I kind of realized, I felt like I digressed as I got older, because when I was, 14, 15, I knew it all. And then as I got older, I realized I didn't know anything, right?
Yeah.
But you couldn't tell me nothing when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, and I think that's the way it is with a lot of people. But yeah, I look back and say, hey, those people that you come across, whether they were bowling coaches or football coaches, get to know them, stay in touch with them, and really, pick their brains for advice. And that's what I tell myself if I had to go back. What about yourself? Did you have a
Yeah.
mentor as a youth?
Um, Pretty much like you were, well, two-parent home. My dad, although he worked a lot, he's the one got me into tropical fish, which was my start. And I always loved animals, but that was his hobby, and it became my hobby too. Got me my first job. He got
Mm,
me my first job when I went off to college,
mhm,
because my parents told me I got the FAMU. I went there first before BSU,
mm.
and I got there on a Sunday, and my parents were like, "You need to have a job by Monday."
No.
And I literally got a job at a pet store,
Yeah.
and that's owed to the knowledge, um, from my dad. His hobby became my hobby. But
Mhm,
we had a family friend, this couple. I used to babysit for them, for their son, and they were from Tuskegee, Alabama, and his name was John J. Luke. Uh, he was, I believe, like Division II All-American basketball player. Uh, Tried to show me thing, got me introduced to jazz.
mm.
I thank him for that. I love jazz to this day. And it was him listening to jazz over at their house. And he tried to introduce me to golf.
Mm.
I caddied for him. And
Okay.
I was about 14, and all I thought was like you know everything.
Right.
I'm like, these are too heavy. All this walking. Even though we played football, basketball, we don't play golf.
Right.
And he tried to teach me. And when I couldn't hit the ball, I was like, no, I'm not doing this.
Yeah, it's not
Now
fun.
I regret it to this day that I didn't let him teach me how to play golf, because I didn't pick it up, you know. until late in life.
Yeah.
And I wish, but he was probably the closest thing to a mentor outside of my family.
Hmm.
And but he was exposing me to things that I would normally have been exposed to or tried,
Right.
and I appreciate him for that. Um, he even introduced me. They introduced me to grits.
Hmm.
Um, I thought one morning, I said, "Boy, somebody really messed up some mashed potatoes." And they said, "You never had grits?" I was like, "No." I just, I said, "I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what." And they were Southern, so maybe
Right,
I picked
right,
on these grits. But yeah, they introduced me to a lot of things. Some took, some didn't.
right.
Um, but yeah, it's I would definitely, if you have somebody that you can look up to or get advice from or has the same type of interest that you have, um, seek them out.
Yep.
Uh,
And stay with them.
Build that
Stay in touch with them.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yep. Uh, so if we move on to the next question, and this I like this one. What are some experiences that you've had as a 13th man mentor, and how do you think those experiences has impacted you?
Uh, well, like I say, you end up doing things that you never really experienced before. I'd never been to a track meet. That was an experience. Um, uh, those things are all day, right?
Yeah,
So
found that out, huh?
yeah, yeah. So
You got heats, you got more heats, and then you got finals, and yeah,
oh
so
my God, it's like it never ends, you know. But it was just really very fulfilling to be there,
mhm,
um, and know that you had somebody that you know was appreciative that you were there, and I think that's at the end of the day that's the biggest thing is
right.
getting that feeling back that you've had an impact, that you made a difference, even if it's just for that one day.
Mhm.
That's probably the biggest takeaway that I get, and it happens, for a time or two, but that's really the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, and for me, it's been so many things. Going down to the armory to pack the
Mm,
boxes for
mm,
Thanksgiving dinners for needy families. Doing that and watching how the young men enjoy that giving back. Going to some of the movies that we've seen, definitely the classic.
mhm,
And what I felt was really impactful was the year where we had the civil rights uh, icons or the men who had been through that era, who had done sit-ins at luncheons. And like one of the gentlemen said, we sat so you guys could go to McDonald's and eat fries.
right.
And those things are going to be impactful for them later on down the road. And I think that's one of the biggest things about the 13th man is they're experiencing things now that they'll feel for a lifetime. They're meeting people
Yeah.
that you know um, will impact them for the rest of their lives.
Well,
Um,
and like you said with guy talk, for me it was very emotional and really like a generational impact moment, if I can say it that way. To be able to share with a group of young men really heartfelt feelings and experiences and understand their pain and allow them to express that and really be a part of that. That's one of the most memorable events that I've ever been associated with, bar none. Um, and it
yeah,
was it was something I'll never forget. Just being there and being a part of that, and then the follow-ups to that. The great thing is that that was one day, but then 3 months later we say let's come back and let's revisit some of these things. Let's talk these things through. It's like a group therapy to a certain
right,
extent, which is
yeah,
pretty interesting. It's pretty impactful.
yeah. And many of the young men have said things in guy talk that they've never told anyone else.
Yeah, right.
And to find out, and one of the things I've heard many of them say was, I didn't realize that there were other people, other young
With
men
the
who have gone
similar
through the
experiences,
same thing
yeah.
I've gone through. And I'll share this. um, and shared it with very many people outside of Guy Talk, was a
Well, it's
young
just
man who
us right
lost,
now,
yeah,
Ron.
who lost his sister and how it
Yeah,
affected him.
yeah.
And I lost my sister
All right.
when I was in my 20s, and was my older sister. She was the person I was closest to in the family from a very young age. Uh, and, that took me back, but then I understood what he was feeling,
Right.
and, we talked afterwards
Yeah.
about that. And I said, I've been through that and I know what you're feeling. Um, it gets better, but it never goes away,
Yeah,
no
that's a
matter how
great
many
point
years.
because sometimes you go through things and you feel like you're the only one,
Right.
and then you find out you're not the only one. And I mean, sharing is caring, but it really does make a difference.
Yeah, it does. And a follow up to that first question was, more importantly, how do you think the mentorship program at the 13th Man has impacted the youth that are involved with the 13th Man? That's just what we were talking about, is
Right.
them finding out that and many things that they thought they were alone and they're not alone. The
Right.
experiences that they felt, others have experienced it too. And now you have a support group or somebody you can look to that's been through the same things that you've been through. And like, how'd you handle this? How are you feeling now? And that's powerful, because when you feel like you're alone with something,
Yeah.
that's a very stressful situation.
Yeah. It can eat
And
you up
then to find
inside.
out there's somebody else.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, being alone, being alone with your thoughts can be dangerous. Because it can eat you up inside, and it doesn't matter how strong you think you are. Um,
Yeah.
it can really bring you down. And so when you're able to share and let it out, it's like lifting a weight off your shoulders, and having this as a community of peers and mentors is it's invaluable.
Yeah. And it's the program. I remember the first year I was there, that was 5 years ago. I came the year after you did. And the young man who came in who just did not want to be there. I mean,
Which is every
he was,
year. There are
yeah,
those.
there's always somebody that don't want to be there, that's going, my mom made me come.
Yeah,
He was giving
yeah,
his mom all kinds of grief. And, he came real close, I think, to being, yeah, you can go home. But after the 4 days, when his mom came to pick him up, the first thing he did was apologize to her.
right,
Not for that, just that, but things he had been doing for a while.
right.
And he was just like, I'm so sorry, you've done so much for me. And I've seen that many times over, that there's a different person
Hmm.
that they pick up than the person that they dropped off.
Right, right.
And a lot of times the parents are going, what did you do to my child?
Right,
Whatever you did, do it again.
right, right.
You know, and part of that too is peer pressure working in that way of, I'm around some guys that want to be positive. So I need to be a part of that instead of being around guys that want to be negative.
That's true. Yeah,
So that effect that the young men have on each other is very powerful too in the 13th Man.
very true.
Yep. So I see we're coming up on 7:45. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. We've gone over, which is not hard
I,
to do. Um,
yeah, it's a great conversation, and I hope those out there who are listening, that if you are thinking about or would like more information, as we said, about becoming a mentor, or you have someone that you think ought to be a mentee, again, go to 13thman.org. Uh, be happy to give any information that you may want on the organization. We, as you can see from the podcast, it means a lot to us. And definitely, Devon Kelly's vision is something that you need to experience.
yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And like I said, it doesn't, it's not a huge sacrifice. I mean, yeah, I used to tell my kids growing up, and because I believe this wholeheartedly, anything that you want to achieve, you're going to have to sacrifice. So being a mentor, there is some sacrifice. Let's not kid ourselves. You got to give up some time. You got to care. You gotta want to make a difference in somebody's life and have an impact in your community. And the reality of it is, I would have never done this on my own. right?
Mhm.
So that's why I'm so grateful and so proud to be a part of this organization. And I embrace the opportunity that Devon, and he came to me and asked me if I was willing to participate. Uh, it's like hell yeah, because yeah, you can't do things on your own, and being a part of something that can be inspirational or impactful to even just one person. If that means something to you, then this is an opportunity to get involved and do it.
Yeah.
Because again, I would have never done it on my own. But knowing that there's a group like this that exists that allows you to do that, and with a little bit of sacrifice,
Yep.
is it's right there in front of you. It's very important, and if you feel that way, um, now's the time because this program is doing nothing but getting bigger, and
Yep.
we need more people to help us reach these kids and really make a change in our community. I mean, change we change is occurring, but it's slow. It takes time, but
Mhm.
it starts with each individual, and this is just one of the opportunities that's available to you if you feel that you're in a position to try to give back.
Exactly. Just pay it forward because, as you said in the beginning, none of us have done this by ourselves.
Nope.
So we've all had a helping hand along the way. And if you're willing to provide that hand to these young men, or if you're a person, and that's something else I've done. I've had people talk about their kids, and I was like, a 13 man would be a great organization for them, and
Yep.
tell them, how to get to the website and what it's about. So again, like you said, we do need because it's grown uh, by leaps and bounds, and hopefully to continue to grow.
Yep.
All right, so thanks everybody for tuning in to this 13th Man podcast. Alton, I've enjoyed the conversation. Look forward to
Ron,
seeing
same
you
here as
again.
always, every time.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.